Delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us. And I was already excited, but I'm even more excited after hearing the last few presentations, because I think what we are going to speak about today really complements everything that Love Irish Food does, because everything you were presenting, I was kind of thinking, oh, that's great, because that's something we actually don't offer, but we offer something that really feeds into that. So very excited. Mary and I are here today. I'm going to go first. And we're just going to talk to you a little bit about the brand building supports that we offer as one little sliver of all the Borpia supports that are offered for our client companies. And then Mary's going to speak a little bit more about being a Borpia client company. She gets the exciting part. So I am Srishti, to introduce myself. I always forget that at the start of a presentation. And I'm the head of brand development, innovation, and client insight team within the Thinking House in Borpia. This is our mission as the Thinking House. In a nutshell, we support producers, Irish producers, by providing insight-led services, and all this is with the aim of contributing to your long-term competitiveness on a global stage. So it's all about your commercial success in the end. But what we really try to do with that insight-led piece is try and get you out of your day-to-day and daily grind and try and bring an aspect of bringing somebody in who can take a step back, who can have a bit more of an outside view in and help you understand the market, your consumer, to be able to do the right thing for your brands. All the services I'm going to present are also heavily subsidized to different levels. Some of them are free, some of them are co-invested up to 50%. I can't go into all those details, but keep that in mind as I go through the presentation. So what is our insight-led process? We go through kind of 3 steps whenever we work with client companies. The first is diagnosis, and that's where we have loads of data and materials to help you diagnose your market, to help you understand the market trends, the consumer, and even yourself. Because once you understand all these things is when you're really going to be able to implement things that are going to resonate and make a difference. It's only after that, sorry about this. It's a bit light, that's why you can't see the pink color. After that, we move on to strategy, and that's about really making your plan based on the insight that you've discovered. And then we move on to execution. So over the next 10, 15 minutes, I'm just going to take you through how that all works. When we're in the diagnosis stage, I've kind of structured this presentation around typical questions or typical scenarios that we would work through with clients. And I know we've worked with a few of you here. Just if somebody wants to give live case studies during the presentation as well. For diagnosis, one of the typical questions we might get from a client is, we really want to drive our brand's growth. We have huge ambitions, but how do we know where to focus? We're only a small team. There's so much we could do. And that's where we really start digging into diagnosing all that data. We say knowledge is power, so it's all about understanding your audience, first of all, knowing your consumer, knowing your customer. That's going to help you be relevant to them. Next, it's about knowing your competition, who else is out there competing with you. And this may not be within your category. It's anything that is competing in your kind of shopper or consumer's headspace. And lastly, but very importantly as well, it's knowing yourself. It's looking inwards and understanding what are your strengths, how can you be authentic, and we help you go through this process as well. So in terms of diagnosis, we have, I hope all of you know this who are Borpia clients. If you don't, this is massive. We have a library database and we have 25 plus reports and databases in that all Borpia clients can access for free. So from Mintel to Euromonitor to IGD, more retail focused, and then we have Canvas 8 and New Nutrition Business, which is really focused on trends and future looking. We also have a number of Borpia thought leadership studies where we invest money ourselves to understand what are the consumer trends in a specific market or in a specific category or around a specific theme, like gut health or food to go, for example, are two of the newest ones. And that is all available for the entire industry for free. We also have, in terms of diagnosis, a few kind of cost-effective and very quick consumer insight services that we offer. So these are things like, I just want to put out a few questions to a national representative sample in Ireland or in the US or in China. We do this globally. There's things like concept testing as well. So Plantit, and I'm delighted Conor talked about Plantit because I have a few slides about them in here. They, for example, did a concept test to understand. They had a few different innovations in the pipeline, and they tested among US consumers to understand which innovation would be most appealing, and which one consumers would be willing to pay more for. So those are relatively quick and easy services we can offer. We can also offer much more tailored, bespoke insight services where you really dig into your brand, your consumer, to really deeply understand. And these are higher cost and higher time, but they're valuable as well. So we did this, for example, with Golden Bake, another brand you mentioned, before we moved into a brand development process with them. And they went through a very intensive brand development process with us. But before that, they actually did a big insight study to understand how is our brand resonating in the market right now? Who's our consumer? Where are our opportunities? One of the key findings, and you'll see that come to life later, was that people knew the jambons and people knew the product, but people did not know the brand Golden Bake. And that was kind of the key challenge that we worked through with them. But they might never have found that out if they hadn't done kind of a deeper insight study. Once we feel we have all the information, you can never have enough information, all the information that we need to move forward, we move into strategy. And one of the typical questions we might get is, look, we've done a lot of research, we feel we're not appealing to the right audience, but what's next? How do we fix this? What can we do? So we offer our brand development and innovation services, which are very popular and very valuable to clients as well. I always put up this slide because when we talk about brand development, I always want to say it's all about commercial value. It's all about driving your business. We saw from Emer, really interesting, that brands are back growing. It is important. Brands are long-term investments. It is important to drive them because the growth will come back after a tough time kind of goes by, and people are willing to pay more for strong brands. So the process we take you through when we go through brand development is we start with a workshop. It's a one-day workshop, and some of you might have been through a few of these with us, but this is where we really dig into what's the market, who's the consumer, where do you want to go, what do you stand for, what are your values, what's your proposition, what's the message you're going to give to clients, what is relevant to them, and you have us in the room who can ask all those hard questions, and who can help you take a step back, take a day out from your day-to-day, and really try and answer those questions. We do all that in order to feed into a brief for a creative agency who's then going to go on to, in most cases, most of your cases, that would be developing packaging design. So things that we develop during that workshop or after that workshop could be things like where you fit in on a competitor map. It could be things like what do you stand for and what do you want consumers to remember about you. It could be things like what's your personality and tone of voice. And it could be something like this is the summary, the one sentence, the one thing that we want consumers to remember about us. We also, as a next step, guide you through the process of selecting a design agency. That can be quite a complex process. There's a lot of agencies out there. For many of our clients, it's the first time they would have done a project like this. So we help with selecting, evaluating, and making sure it's a good fit. Two of the brands we've worked with, I just want to mention and thank them for letting me mention them. So Golden Bake, we've talked about them. This was their previous packaging. I talked a little bit about the findings from their research. And from their research, the creative agency developed a platform and a positioning called bring on the happy. And Robin has kindly approved me to share this over here. From that, there was a long design process with multiple rounds of development, etc. But the final packaging that you'll have seen maybe in stores already and we'll see on the buses as well was this packaging. So it became much more about we're fun, we're about snacking, we're about community and connection, but also that piece of we need our brand to be front and center and not the jam balls. While they're important, nobody's actually remembering our brand, and that was making it difficult for them to extend into other products beyond the jam balls. Another company we worked with, which you also mentioned, Connor, is Plantit. So this was Plantit's old packaging. Now, you've already revealed the new packaging on your slide, but this was Plantit's old packaging. And they had an amazing product. They still have an amazing product, great quality, great taste. And the packaging was not communicating that, I think, quite obviously to everyone in this room. But it's very daunting for a company like Plantit, or like any of you probably, to go through a process. It's kind of, we know it's not working, but what do we do and how do we fix it? So we went again through that whole workshop with them. We developed their packet, their proposition, what they stand for, etc. And then this was the new packaging that came out at the end of it. Again, this was a several months long process with various testing along the way, with various iterations, but I think just the before and the after just paints a really nice picture. And the best part really of this project is that it has enabled Plantit to grow internationally and to expand into export markets, because the packaging is just so appealing now. And I just want to grab it off the slide as well. Now, these are big projects that we do. While we co-invest 50%, still a relatively high cost. So there might be several of you thinking, well, this all sounds great, but we don't really have the money for it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our service that we offer for smaller businesses as well. So we offer a service as well, which we call super brands, which is for businesses generally below 5 million turnover. It's the same process that we go through, but it's quite standardized in terms of the agencies that are available and the rounds of iteration, etc. It's just not as tailored and bespoke, but we have a few examples of brands that have gone through that, and that's only 8,000 euros for the entire process, because it is that heavily subsidized if you are a small company. So Naked Bakes, which you may all know, was a brand that went through super brands, but then also this global water brand, where the challenge was all about trying to develop a water product that is not in a plastic bottle. And then the McCann Family Orchards Irish Gala apples, where the challenge was there's so many imported apples on the Irish market, and how do we really brand ourselves as the Irish quality for apples, so people will buy Irish apples rather than imported apples. So that's a little bit of an insight into the types of brands that can go through a more kind of standardized, easier, not as daunting process. Although we are there to guide you through every step of the way, that's a great thing to keep in mind as well. To talk just a little couple of minutes about execution, I always say this, the godfather of strategy, former CEO of my alma mater, Procter & Gamble, always said to us, execution is the only strategy the consumer sees. So again, we can spend months developing a new identity for Golden Bake or for Plantit, but if no one sees it, and if it doesn't come to life, and if we don't put the effort and the resource behind driving that brand, there really was no point. So it comes to really this challenge that a lot of our clients face as well. We have an appealing product, we have an appealing brand, whether we've been through the development process or not, but we're just really struggling to drive it with our limited marketing resources. So we have a few things that we can help you with for that as well. One is all around capability building, and these are just a few things that are coming up in the next few weeks. There is a social insights series that Adam from our team leads, which is a once a month webinar that you can attend. Definitely get on a brand forum mailing list if you aren't already. There's regular workshops around different topics, and there's different trainings that we offer. So the 2 upcoming ones are negotiation training and sustainability communication. But as the year goes on, then there's more and more trainings all the time. And then within our team, we also offer brand marketing supports. And these, I was delighted to see all the support you offer for the Irish market, because for us, with the remit of Bord Bia, these are more export focused. So with the global presence of Bord Bia, we can really help with launches in international markets, finding agencies in international markets, briefing agencies in international markets, but also developing websites so you have that presence globally. I'm going to hand over to Mary.
Thanks a million, Srishti. Just make sure I've got the right button. Yes, and I just want to say, I suppose the reason why we invest in so much brand and innovation and lots of the other services that Srishti spoke about is ultimately because it's about developing an ecosystem for the food and drink industry in Ireland, because that really is the foundation for exports. And the value of Irish food and drink exports in 2024 was just €17 billion. And that was an increase. We've seen an increase year on year over the last number of years. And that is coming across from all sectors. And it's as the result of farmers and producers right across the country driving business and building a really resilient and sustainable industry that is really contributing to the economy in Ireland, and one I think we can never ever lose sight of. And I think it's just important to note that a domestic foundation is key to that export. Just to look a little bit in terms of prepared consumer foods, which is my area, and I think it's where an awful lot of your companies also sit. From an export perspective, there's been a number of particularly good years, and the value of exports in prepared consumer foods was just 3.4 billion. That's up 7% on 2023. But most importantly, what we've also seen is volume growth in that, which is really pretty phenomenal given the really tough macro environment that we've seen, particularly in the UK market in retail and food service. Just as well, just in terms of where those exports are going, the UK is the dominant market, and again, value and volume was up last year. 69% of all PCF exports go to the UK market. That's an increase from 66% in 2023. And after Brexit, we would have seen, and we would have had a lot of talk ourselves around market diversification into Europe. But I think it's important just to note that really the UK market is the driving force for PCF exports. And it's not easy, and I'm sure anybody here in the room would tell us that. So anyway, just in terms of working with Bord Bia, and I think for anybody who isn't accessing us, I think it's important that we just kind of bring to light how that's best done. In terms of listening to Conor and to Donal, it's very clear that our values are aligned. We obviously have a remit and an act in legislation as well. But essentially, to be considered a client of Bord Bia, it's relatively straightforward in the sense of the activity must be taking place in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. So in terms of jobs and revenue must be recorded in Ireland. Manufacturing has to be done in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, or outsourced to another manufacturer in the Republic of Ireland. It's very much an ecosystem here. We're agnostic to ownership, so we don't take ownership. It's part of our remit into account. But obviously there are limitations from a state aid perspective in terms of how much funding can go into large businesses. And then also in terms of raw materials, while we love to see more and more Irish ingredients being used, and we do know that there's a huge amount of intertrade and engagement between companies. It's not a stipulation in terms of becoming a client of Bord Bia. What is most important is that there's value add been done. So it's not about decanting, it's very much around value add and manufacturing in the Republic of Ireland. For anybody who's not a client of Board BIA and sort of would like to, we do have a form on our website, or else just reach out to me, and it's relatively straightforward. It's really just trying to understand a little bit about your business so that we can get you set up. And then we've done a huge amount of work in terms of digital transformation, and even just listening here earlier today around the role of digital in marketing as well. So we've now got a client dedicated portal for client companies. It's up and running, and it basically means it's like your one-stop shop for all of Board B information. So rather than waiting until somebody is back at the desks to send you a form, or routing through emails to find when did you last get that attachment and who did you get it from in Board BIA, it's all now contained within the actual portal. So all of our own reports are the ones that are proprietary to us, in addition to access into the library. So you can send your request directly into the library and they will send the information back to you through the portal. So again, it's much easier than having to try and find everything. Also, all our events are being done through the portal, and we'll be building out more and more functionality on it over the next number of years. We're currently in the process of getting feedback from companies on it. There are, of course, always challenges with big projects like that, but we are making some good inroads into it. That's just the front face. I know there was a video there, but I'm actually not going to play it. I'll just skip past it. So what I would say for anybody here, there's two things really. We have a client email that goes out every week. Now, I'm more aware of the inbox and trying to wade through the inbox and everything that's coming through. But given the scale of the industry, it is our primary way of engaging with companies. So I would say keep an eye out for it. All of our events, all of the research that's coming out, it's all in the email, and it brings you back into the portal. So I'd say do that. If you're not registered for the portal, do that as well, because it's just the easiest way of getting access to everything. And then I'd also say thirdly then, just don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's any particular queries for me or for Srishti as well. Okay, thank you very much.